You said you were done. You meant it. You emptied the bottle, deleted the app, blocked the number, cleaned the house, swore to yourself and maybe to God that this time would be different. And then, without an announcement or a drum roll, your hand moved on its own. The message sent. The glass poured. The page opened. The ritual completed itself as if your body had memorized a prayer your mind didn't believe. Afterward came the weight, the familiar stone in your chest, the quiet self-interrogation. Why am I like this? Here is the truth you've never been taught to consider. The part of you that reaches is not stupid, and it is not evil. It is fluent in a language you were never taught to read. Jung noticed this long before the self-help industry did. Compulsions don't behave like random malfunctions. They behave like messages that refuse to leave until they are understood. He wasn't saying addiction is good. He was saying it is meaningful. A rough, primitive, often destructive form of communication from the parts of you exiled. The hunger you minimize, the grief you bypass, the tenderness you learned to hide, the terror you survived by making yourself small. When those parts are ignored in daylight, they start speaking at midnight. You've felt the sequence. The craving arrives like sirens. The preparation begins with a strange reverence. The first sip, the click, the rush, the drop. Relief lands, and with it, shame. From the outside, it looks like punishment. On the inside, it is a conversation, urgent, unsophisticated, but true. So let me ask you something that can change everything about the way you meet this thing. What if the craving isn't asking to be obeyed or destroyed, but translated? If that hits somewhere real, say it quietly to yourself right now. I hear it. Not I approve, not I excuse it. I hear it. Because power begins in hearing what is actually being said. Stay with me. No moralizing, no scare tactics, no false promise. Just the psychology you can feel in your bones, told in language you can use when the night gets loud. By the end of this, I want your relationship with craving to be different, not because you learned a trick, but because you recognized a voice. If depth like this is your home, then be part of it. Subscribe now so these messages find you when you need them most. And if a sentence already found you, tell me in the comments the 3 words. I hear it. That simple truth marks the beginning. Don't think of 10 episodes. Think of one. One afternoon, one evening, one exact spiral. The day had that rough texture you know too well. A conversation scraped old scar tissue. An email did what emails do, turned your nervous system into a courtroom. Or maybe it was quieter. The emptiness that visits when the house goes still and no one needs you. And in the silence, your own need finally becomes audible. Your mind offered the familiar bargain. Just once. You deserve this. You can quit again tomorrow. If you were watching someone else, you might call it weakness. But if you listen with Jung's ear, you'll notice something else. The object of the addiction is less important than the function it performs inside you. Alcohol, lust, control, relentless ambition, even pain. Different masks, same actor. Each is a crude tool used to purchase something legitimate. Relief without debt, warmth without danger, aliveness without risk, a sense of power in a life that shrinks you. Connection without the threat of rejection. This is why just stop rarely works. Stopping removes the costume. The actor is still on stage. So ask yourself, gently, honestly, with no courtroom in your voice, what the behavior reliably buys in the first minutes. Not in theory. In your body. Warmth? Quiet? Permission to feel anything? The end of the buzzing in your head? And then ask what pain it reliably moves you away from. Loneliness, a pile of unmade decisions, a childhood echo that whispers you are not enough unless you're performing. When you name both, the purchase and the hiding, the behavior loses its mystery. Not all its force, not yet, but some of its spell. The code begins to appear. Say a sentence out loud in the room you are in. I use this to feel that, especially when I'm avoiding this. Let the blank spaces be ugly and simple and unpoetic. Ugly truth is sturdier than beautiful lies. Your mind will tempt you to over-explain. Don't. You don't need a thesis. You need a sentence you can remember at 2 a.m. And if courage flickers while you're listening to this, write your sentence down when we're done. Language turns fog into ground. Jung called it the shadow. Everything about you that was real but unwelcome, pushed out of sight to secure love, safety, belonging. The shadow doesn't vanish when exiled. It reroutes. If it cannot speak in the light, it will speak in the storm. This is why your 2 a.m. promises break. You keep negotiating with a part of you won't admit exists. Nothing is more dangerous than a silenced truth with something to prove. Addiction is one of Shadow's favorite microphones, not because you are bad, but because you are split. One part of you longs for dignity, steadiness, health. Another part longs to scream, to be held without earning it, to stop being painfully, endlessly responsible for everyone's comfort. When those parts have nowhere to meet, the behavior mediates their war. Here's the paradox that keeps high-functioning people trapped. The more you attack the craving as an enemy, the more shadow you generate. Shame, secrecy, perfectionism. And the stronger the enemy becomes. But the moment you stop swinging and turn toward it, asking, as simply as you can, what are you trying to do for me, however clumsily? The chemistry changes. Not gone. Different. The voltage drops enough to breathe. This descent is not pretty. It will show you what you worked hard to never see. Your envy, your manipulative brilliance, your animal hunger for comfort, the way you sabotage intimacy when it gets too honest. But it will also show you your gold, your tenderness, your hunger for the real thing, your refusal to live a small life. Both are there. Both are you. The old stories send the hero underground before any real transformation, because the treasure is always guarded by the monster you swear isn't yours. You don't have to become the monster. You do have to admit it's in your house. So give the shadow a seat without giving it the steering wheel. When the craving rises, don't sprint and don't freeze. Sit for a moment, breathe low into your belly, and say this out loud, even if you feel ridiculous. Something in me wants this, and something in me is afraid. Both are me. Neither gets to drive right now. Let the body feel what it feels, the heat, the electricity, the ocean in your ribs, without arguing. When it asks to be seen, nod. You don't owe it obedience. You owe it honesty. If that tiny shift makes sense to you, say it under your breath as a private promise. Containment before control. And if it helps, tell me in the comments you're trying it for a week. Those 4 words become a small ceremony that marks your decision. There is a wound under the pattern. Maybe it's a story with a clear beginning. Maybe it's an atmosphere that lasted years. The home where affection had strings attached. The church that praised your performance and ignored your tears. The first big win that taught your nervous system that love is earned, not given. Some wounds scar and close. Others become doorways that never quite seal. And through them, meaning keeps trying to get your attention. You do not need a metaphysical explanation to respect the depth of what you carry. But if the word God helps you stay in relationship with something larger than your private willpower, use it. The crucial point is this: the wound is not your enemy. The wound is the teacher that refuses to graduate you until you learn what it came to teach. Every time you use, you're trying to anesthetize the lesson. Every time you white-knuckle abstinence without listening, you're trying to skip class. Either way, the wound waits, so the contract changes. Instead of begging for the thorn to be ripped out, you learn to ask what it's pointing to today. You place a hand wherever the ache seems to live, in your chest, your throat, your stomach, and you say, softly, "Teach me." The answer may be painfully ordinary. Call the friend you only call when you feel strong. Sleep before you make that decision. Tell the truth you keep curating. Grieve the thing you keep explaining. Move 1 inch toward that instruction before bed. 1 inch is not dramatic, which is why it works. Drama burns you out. Devotion rewires you. This is not passivity. It is obedience to the kind of wisdom that doesn't shout. It trains you to stop waiting for your life to change and start building a way of being that can actually hold you. You've tried force. You've negotiated with mirrors at 2 a.m. You've built elaborate reward systems and iron punishments. If force worked, you wouldn't be here. Jung's gift is ruthlessly simple. Integration beats annihilation. The goal isn't to kill the part of you that craves. The goal is to move it under a larger center of gravity. Imagine your inner life like a solar system. Right now, the addictive object is the sun. Every plan and promise, every failure and apology orbits that burning center. Surrender isn't throwing yourself into its fire. Surrender is picking up the sun and placing it in a drawer by lighting a bigger star. Bigger than relief? Bigger than intensity? Yes. Meaning. Not the kind you perform in public, the kind that quietly claims you. Addictions metabolize energy quickly. That is their seduction. Meaning metabolizes energy slowly and without debt. You don't get there by importing a ready-made purpose from a podcast. You get there by giving your life, piece by piece, to what holds you without lying. Craft, service, prayer, honest work. A practice that asks more of you than it gives back in the beginning. When the urge spikes and your mind is making its old bargains, reach for 3 anchors, not as a checklist, but as a rhythm. Let your body remember what real relief feels like. Cold water on your wrists, air moving through lungs that forgot the bottom of the breath, a walk around the block without a phone so your eyes can touch a sky that doesn't care about your resume. Let your heart tell the truth to one real person with one real sentence. I'm in the spin. I feel alone. I'm about to do the thing, and I don't want to do it alone. Let your soul be reminded, in whatever language you trust, that you are held through a quiet prayer, a line of poetry you've saved for this exact moment, a song you don't listen to unless you need help remembering what you're part of. When you practice this, something strange begins to happen. The urge starts arriving with the memory of what to do. That's your nervous system, learning a new path home. If this is the kind of practice you want more of, make sure you're subscribed. I build these episodes to be a training ground, not a pep talk. And yes, I want you here, because I don't think you're broken. I think you're powerful enough to require better tools. We're still avoiding the trap of lists and tricks. But real life needs handles, and these are handles you can hold when the mind goes static. When the urge appears, name where you are and what time it is. It seems childish. It isn't. It pulls you into the room where you're actually sitting, instead of the memory palace where you usually get lost. Call the feeling by one simple name: lonely, angry, ashamed, bored, scared, tired, hungry. Then speak the hidden purchase out loud. I am about to use this to feel that, so I don't have to face this. Do not argue with it. Do not preach to it. Turn your face toward a cleaner way of getting that first thing. 5 honest breaths on the floor, a shower that resets your skin, a text that asks for presence instead of advice, a 10-minute walk that lets your body metabolize fire into motion. For evenings that always tilt the same way, create a turning point corner. 1 chair, 1 lamp, 3 objects that represent what holds you. Something for the body you can touch. Something for the heart that reminds you you're loved. Something for the soul that points beyond your small room. Make that corner the place you go before the kitchen, before the couch, before the browser. Let your nervous system learn that the pivot lives there. Over time, the corner becomes a gravity well more powerful than the ritual you're trying to survive. When shame tries to swallow you, give the part of you that uses a name and a 2-line biography. Not to dramatize, to de-weaponize. This is the achiever. She believes love is earned. She uses work and wine to buy enough. She's brilliant and exhausted. Or, this is the ghost. He learned silence keeps him safe. He disappears into screens when his body wants to scream. Then, when the urge arrives, say the name. The distance that opens is small and sacred. You become a witness instead of a whirlwind. And when you fall, and there will be falls, refuse to build a cathedral to shame. Gather simple information before the night dries. What set me up? What story I believed? What purchase I tried to make? What clean way I'll try first next time? What small repair I can make now? Drink water. Change your sheets. Send 1 honest sentence to a safe human. Step outside and look at something that exists without your permission. You are not minimizing the seriousness. You are refusing to add a second arrow to the first wound. If a single line in this section feels like it might actually live in your life, anchor it by saying it out loud. I choose translation, not as a slogan, as a practice. And if you want me to turn these into a full sequence you can train with, Tell me, build the series, so I can prioritize it. Survival has a shape. It stretches days between binges and collects merit badges for white-knuckle nights. It calls itself success and feels like glass. Transformation has a different pulse. It doesn't ask the behavior to vanish. It makes the behavior irrelevant by building a life that no longer requires it to handle your emotional physics. Your identity shifts from "I am an addict" or "I am sober" to something truer and less dramatic. I am a whole person who has a relationship with craving, and I speak its language better each month. It won't be linear. You'll rise hopeful and fall ashamed, rise determined and fall humbled, a spiral that tightens around the truth. There will be odd little miracles. An urge arrives, and instead of blindness, you hear a sentence, "I want to feel wanted." You go to the corner, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like sanctuary. You relapse, and instead of detonating your life, you make a small repair, and then another, and then you go to bed. The next morning, you wake up to a sky that didn't collapse. That isn't denial. That is stewardship of your nervous system. The qualities you're growing, pattern recognition, humility, the capacity to sit in discomfort without dramatic exits, compassion for other people's mess, are not consolation prizes. They are your gold. They make you dangerous in the best way. A person who can't be bought by shallow pleasures because you've already tasted their counterfeit and learned exactly how it lies. Hear this fully. Nothing in this world will ever be enough. For years, that sentence crushed you because you heard it as a curse. Let it be a permission instead. If nothing out there will finally satisfy, you can stop demanding it to. You can stop searching for the door in the wrong wall. You can start building in here. Your thirst was never for a bottle or a browser. It was for the presence big enough to hold your voltage. Call it God. Call it truth. Call it the self that won't settle for performance. Names matter less than contact. Before we close, give your future self a gift so small it looks silly. Send one honest sentence to the person who can sit in the dark without turning on the lights too quickly. Clear the corner. Put a lamp there and something your hands can hold. Write your shadow's name in the notes on your phone. Walk outside for 10 minutes without a soundtrack and let the ordinary world remind you how survival is built. One unremarkable moment at a time, repeated until it becomes a life. If what we're doing here helps you, subscribe so you don't have to remember to find it when you most need it. And speak your line in the comments so you can return to it later, like a marker on a map. Mine today is simple. I will not fight the storm. I will learn its language. Weeks pass. The corner becomes familiar. The body learns that relief can arrive without debt. You begin to notice your early warning signs sooner. In the throat that tightens when you pretend you're fine. In the fingers that itch for escape when a conversation asks for honesty. In the scanning eyes that search for an exit when a quiet room makes you confront how much you miss yourself. Familiarity used to terrify you. Now it grounds you. A forecast you can trust. Months pass. People respond to your orbit, changing the way people do. Some applaud with the kind of enthusiasm that makes you suspicious. Some minimize or make jokes because your steadiness exposes their bargains. Some silently drift. Let them. Your work is in the center, not the circumference. And one day, slowly, without a trumpet, something in you recognizes the truth. It wasn't that you finally became strong enough to conquer a monster. It was that you finally became connected enough that a monster was no longer required. Connected to your body, which now speaks to you in early whispers instead of late alarms. Connected to one or two people who don't treat your darkness like a problem to solve, but a room to sit in. Connected to a practice that metabolizes your fire without burning the house down. Connected to the part of you used to exile, the one that wanted and raged and cried and wouldn't submit to the smiling script, and which now has a chair at your table. That is individuation as Jung meant it, not perfection, wholeness, not the end of desire, the end of being dominated by it. The shadow stops pounding on the door because you built it a room in your home. It still speaks. Sometimes it shouts, but it doesn't have to burn everything down to be heard. If you feel even a flicker of that possibility right now, claim it. Say the sentence you'll need when the night gets loud. I'm learning the language. Put it in the comments as a timestamp. Whisper it before sleep. Write it on a scrap of paper and tuck it beneath the lamp in your corner. You are not cursed. You are not weak. You are not beyond saving. You are a person with an untranslatable hunger who has begun to translate. That is the beginning of freedom. And the beginning is enough. I'm proud of you. I'll see you in the next one.